All right, we are continuing on with graphing. So remember, graphing happens on the coordinate plane. The x-intercept is a number line, and then the y-intercept is a number line that intersects the x-intercept at a 90-degree angle. So you have your number line with all the negatives on the left side of the origin, and then your positive numbers on the right side of the origin. And then for your y-axis, you have your positive numbers above the origin and you have your negative numbers below the origin. There are arrows because the coordinate plane goes on forever. We know how to plot points. We know that an equation with an x and a y, or just an x or just a y, can be translated to a line on this plane. Okay, and today we're going to talk about how to determine the slope or the steepness of the line when you have this point and then you have another point. Okay, so between 2 points, how do you find the slope of a line on the coordinate plane? All right, and what is a line? A line is just an equation. So the slope describes the rate of change between 2 spots on a line. Okay, we can use a formula to find the slope if we have 2 points. The slope, I apologize. The slope we call m. Okay, remember we briefly discussed y equals mx plus b is a form of equation. Okay, m is always your slope, and then b is your y-intercept, where it crosses the y-axis. Okay, so m is, if you have 2 points, one of your y values subtracted from the other y value, and then one of your x values, subtracted from the other x value. Okay, you have 2 points. I'm going to call those 2 points you can call them point A and point B, whatever you want. Because we have these sub point 1, point 2, right? Because we have the subscript, the subscript has nothing to do with this. Okay, that's a math term. This is just kind of like more of an English term. We're just saying my second y, my first y value, my second x value, my first x value. Okay, so P1 is going to have, remember we always have x and y. So my first point is going to have my first x value, and then it's going to have my second x value. Does that make sense? And then my second point has my second x value. Oh no, my second y value. I always do that. It's important to look at yours to make sure it makes sense. Your first point has your first x, your first y. Your second point has your second x, your second y. Good? All right. So if we were to practice with the points 7, 2, and 3, 8, and again, you're always welcome to put whatever you can into Desmos. Good? So for this point, we have 7, 2. 7, 2. And then we have the point 3, 8. Sorry. 3, 8. We are not talking about this one right now. You have 2 points. What is the slope of the point? What we're going to do is you're going to take your y's and divide them by your x's. So the y value of this one is 8. The y value of this one is 2, right? It doesn't matter which one's your first and which one's your second. But if I go from 8 to 2, I went down 6, right? My x values are 3 and 7. If I go from 3 to positive 7, I went positive 4, right? Negative 6, positive 4. Down 6, over 4. Or over 4, down 6. Or start at 7, 2, go up 6, and then go negative 4 to the left 4. All right, so that's what we mean by slope. How do we get from 3, 8 to 7, 2? Or how do we get from 7, 2 to 3, 8? Good. And the answer is, you decide that 7, 2 is your first point. And you decide that 3, 8 is your second point. It doesn't matter which one you decide is 0.1 and 0.2. Just be sure that you have this 2 goes here. If this 2 goes here, the 7 goes here, 8 goes here, 3 goes here. Don't put a 2 and then put the 7 over here. 8, 3 over there. That's the only way to make a mistake, but it doesn't matter which one's your X and which one's your Y. If this is true, that means my X1 is going to be that 7. My Y1 is going to be that 2. My X2 is going to be the number 3, and my Y2 is going to be the number 8. Make sense? Okay. So, slope is Y2, which is 8, minus Y1, which is 2, over X2, which is 3, minus X1, which is 7. 8 minus 2 is 6. 3 minus 1 is 2. That is your slope. Your slope is 6 over 2. 7, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sorry. I thought that was a 1, but I think it was a 7. Also be careful how well you write things. How carefully you write things. So 3 minus 7 is actually negative 4. So that wasn't a positive 2, that was a negative 4. Remember, now you want to simplify this fraction. So right, we can go, just like we saw in Desmos, we can go down 6, or sorry, we can go up 6, negative 4, but we can also go up 3 over 2. Up 3 over 2, and that gives us the same line, but my fraction is in lowest terms. So if you're going to put 6 over negative 4 in lowest terms, 6 is 3 times 2. Negative 4 is negative 2 times 2, and then you can cancel out, you can cancel out the 2's, and we get negative 3 halves is our slope. From the 0.72, go down 3, and then go right 2 or positive 2 on the X. Or you can go up 3, negative 2. Okay, we'll keep practicing. Here we have 9, negative 5, and negative 7, negative 5. So let's just real quickly, this will be my X1, Y1. This will be my X2, Y2. All right, M is negative 5 minus negative 5. I should be using parentheses. And then X is, I started with X1, so I need to continue with, or sorry, I started with Y1, so I need to continue with X1. 9 minus negative 7. At least with the negatives, put the parentheses. 5 minus negative 5 is the same as 5 plus 5. It is not. It's the same as negative 5. Minus a negative makes it a positive. Negative 5 plus 5. And then 9 minus negative 7, that's a big plus. So both of these subtracted negatives become big plus signs. 9 and 7 is 16, right? But negative 5 plus 5 is 0. And 0 divided by 16 is 0. All right, so what we mean here is, in Desmos, instead of having a slope of down 3 over 2, down 3 over 2, we are going to have a slope that does not go up or down. It remains on x equals negative 5, just like that equation from the very end of the last lecture. Good? So that slope is 0. The slope is not going to go up or down. It's never going to change steepness. The steepness of that line is 0. Let's do it again. Here we have negative 2, 9, and negative 10, 19. M is 19 minus 9, and then negative 10 minus negative 2. 19 minus 9 is just 10. Negative 10 plus 2, right? Negative 8. 10 divided by negative 8. If we do this, right? 6 becomes 3 times 2. 10 becomes 5 times 2. Negative 8 becomes negative 2 times 2 times 2, because 2 times 8 divided by 2 is 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. So negative 2 times 2 times 2 is negative 8. So that is 5 divided by negative 4th, or negative 5/4, or negative 5 divided by positive 4. Sound good? All right, one more. Negative 8, 10, and just for fun, I'll say this is my x2, this is my y2, this is my x1, this is my y1. So now I have slope is, well, we start with your y's on top, 10 minus 4 divided by negative 8 minus negative 8. All right. 10 minus 4 is 6. Negative 8 plus 8 is 6 divided by 0. All right, be careful because here we have 0 divided by 16. Good. But here we have 6 divided by 0. What happens when you divide by 0? It is undefined. All right. Undefined because if a slope is fully straight up and down, that one was side to side, right? But if our slope is fully upside down, negative 8, or sorry, fully up and down, not upside down. And then it doesn't really matter, but it was negative 8, 4. What we see here is that line's going to be straight up and down. That's called undefined. What is the difference between a positive and a negative slope? A positive is as x increases, y also increases. Good. Negative as x increases, y decreases. You can also say as x decreases, y decreases. And for this one, as x decreases, y increases. So the x and the y are going opposites. Okay. Line goes up to the right. So positive would be up to the right. Negative would be down to the right. So as you're reading it, like you're reading an English sentence, if it goes down, that's a negative slope. That's you reading it. That's not the line. And then if you're reading it and it goes up, that would be a positive slope. This one's undefined. This one's 0. It's supposed to be flat. All right. All horizontal lines, horizontal means I'm doing this, have a slope of m is 0. Vertical line, m is undefined. Okay, so m is y minus y divided by x minus x, but it's y is your rise, up or down, x is your run, left or right. So m is rise over run. Rise is up or down, run is left or right. Good? Okay, now they're asking us to find the slope of a line. They didn't give us points. We use, silly. We use the graph to find the points. So this is the point 3, or sorry, this point is my y-intercept. My y-intercept always has an x value of 0 because we did not move left or right. We did not run left or right, but we did go up 3. Right? And then my x-intercept is right here. It's going to be -3 on my x, 0 on my y, because I went from the origin left 3, but I did not go up or down. Okay? X-intercept. So all they gave us was a graph, a picture of a line. And now we found 2 points. Now you're going to need to find the slope of those 2 points. X1, doesn't matter if you start with the -3 or the 3. X1 is -3. Y1 is 0. X2, zoom that on back out. X2 is 0. Y2 is 3. Good. Our slope formula is M is y minus y over x minus x. Again, it doesn't matter if it's y1 or y2, x1 or x2. Just make sure you keep them straight, okay? Y1 is 0. Y2 is 3. So we have 0 minus 3. X1 is -3. X2 is 0. So 0 minus 3 is -3. -3 minus 0 is -3. -3 divided by -3 is +1. Negative divided by negative is a positive. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So that slope is 1. If I were to graph the slope, I'm going to say we had, it's just easier to look at in decimals, 0, 3. Then we had the point -3, 0. Nah, like that. All right. From here, if I go rise 1, run 1, rise 1, run 1, rise 1, run 1, both in the positive direction. So that slope is going up from left to right. It's a positive slope. Here, I can also start at 0, 3, rise -1, run -1, rise -1, run -1, rise -1, run -1, which is why it doesn't matter which one's your x and, or sorry, which one's your first point and which one's your second point. And that slope is a 1, a slope of 1, we say, okay? All right, time to get close again. Here we have, that first point is 0, 2. And that second point is 2, 0. Okay, it looks a little bit like the last one, which was 0, 3, -3, 0. But look, this is going to be going down, so that's a negative slope. All right. Slope is always the same formula. M is y minus y divided by x minus x. Y2 is 0. Y1 is 2. X2 is 2. X1 is 0. So we have 0 minus -2 is -2. 2 minus 0 is 2. -2 divided by 2, -2 divided by -2 is a -1. Negative divided by a positive is a negative. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Sound good? So my slope is -1, just like that one. The example before, we started here and we rose 1, ran 1, rose 1, ran 1. Now we're going to rise -1, run 1, rise -1, 1, 1, run 1. Good? All right, number 12, it is just the horizontal line at y equals -9. Where does the graph cross the y-axis at -9, so that's my equation. Here, the graph crosses at x is -5. All right, if you graphed either of those in Desmos, that's what the whole graph would be. But what is the slope if x is -5? The slope isn't -5. The slope is undefined. It is too steep. If I go up, I don't go left or right any, so that's undefined. That would be up 1 over 0. Anything divided by 0 is undefined. Here, our slope is 0 because if I don't go up or down, but I do go over whatever amount I want. So every time I move on x, I don't move on y. 0 divided by 1 is 0, but 1 divided by 0 is undefined. Again, graph those, and the graphing application will help you, so long as you remember that if it's horizontal, it's 0. If it's vertical, it is undefined. All right, I'll give you a slope man picture. This is his eye because that slope is positive. All right. Here is his second eyebrow. That's a minus for an eye because that slope is negative. Good. Here's his mouth. His mouth is a slope of 0. So his left eye has a positive slope, so his eyebrow is going up. Right eye, negative slope, going down with a minus sign. And his nose is undefined, so that's slope man, all right? So that's a positive, negative, 0 slope, and that is an undefined slope. Good. All right, the pitch of the roof is the slope of the roof. Find the pitch of the roof. So remember, it's always rise over run, right? And this is my y value over my x value. From here, I'm going to go left 15 and I'm going to go up 8. So my rise is 8. My run is, what, a 15? 15. Good. It is a positive slope. A line is going left to right. It's going up from left to right. So my number should be 8 over 15 should be a positive number, and it is. Okay, so that's the slope of the roof. What is the slope intercept form of a line? The slope intercept form of the line is y equals mx plus b, where this is your slope, and this is where you cross the y-axis or your y-intercept. Okay? What two pieces of information does the form of a line tell us? The form of a line tells us the slope of the line and the y-intercept of the line. This tells you the slope, this tells you the y-intercept, all right? 16 says, if you were given 3x plus 2y equals 1, explain why the slope of the line is not m equals 3. This is not m equals 3 because, remember, you need it in the form y equals mx plus b to reliably find the slope as the number next to the x, or the coefficient of x, okay? Right now you have 3x plus 2y equals 1. You can find the slope either by graphing it and just counting the rises and the runs, or you can set it equal to y, which will put it into slope-intercept form, right? So we're solving for y. I'm going to subtract 3x, I get 2y is negative 3x plus 1, divide everything by 2, and I get y equals negative 3/2 x plus 1/2. Now I know my slope. My slope is negative 3/2. If I want to go and graph this in Desmos, what I can do is I can type in 3x plus 2y equals 1. I can also type in what I found, y equals negative 3/2 x plus 1/2. You see how that line is the same? It would not be the same if your x was down here. Okay, it's a different thing. Make sure your x is up here with the 3 or off to the side. But those are the same line, all right? And so we know the slope is -3/2. Find the slope of the line and the y-intercept of the line. Remember, your slope is going to be the coefficient of x, and your y-intercept is going to be the constant, or the number besides that. So here the slope is -5, don't forget the negative sign, and the y-intercept is -4, don't forget the negative sign. Okay. Here we have f of x equals -8/3x minus 5. I want to show you something else in Desmos. Y equals -5x -8/3 x minus 5, and f of x equals -8/3 x minus 5. Those are the same line. F of x is just instead of y. So don't be scared of f of x. You can replace it with y, all right? But it is in slope-intercept form. So my slope is -8/3 and my y-intercept is -5. Always recognize the minus sign. Needs to stick with it, all right? Here they're asking us to find the slope and y-intercept of the line 3x plus 5y equals -16. You can put it into Desmos and try to find it that way. Or you can isolate y or solve for y. Right now we have y is being multiplied by 5 and 3x is being added to y. So I'm just going to undo all of those things. Now I have 5y equals -3x minus 16. I put the 3x in front because that's easiest to read in y equals mx plus b form. Divide by 5, divide by 5, divide by 5, and we get y equals -3/5 x minus 16/5. You can't simplify that fraction anymore. So my slope is -3/5. Don't include the x. And then my y-intercept is -16/5. Here's another one. 5y minus 2x equals 12 becomes 5y equals 2x plus 12 because I moved the -2x. Got that. Now I'm going to divide everything by 5. Good. Y equals 2/5 x 2x plus 12/2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, so we have y equals 1x plus 6, no x. 2 divided by 2 is just 1, 1x is the same as x, and then 12 divided by 2 is 6. So we have y equals x plus 6. My y-intercept is 6, but there's no number in front of x. What does that mean? Y equals x plus 6. If we graph it in Desmos, and we've already seen one of these, but if we graph this in Desmos, y equals x plus 6. What is my slope? From 0, 6, I rise 1, I run 1. 1, 7. I rise 1, I run 1. 2, 8. Okay, so that's just a slope of 1. F of x equals 3x. My slope is 3. My y-intercept, it doesn't not exist. It's 0. Let's look at it. Where does it cross? So here, +6 was my x-axis, and we can see that it crosses the x-intercept at 0, 6. What about, did it say f of x? F of x is 3x. Where does it cross the x-intercept at 0, 0? So my y-intercept is 0. X equals -6. Easiest thing to do is just graph it. X equals -6. It doesn't have a y-intercept. It's never going to cross the y-axis, no matter how far I zoom out, it's always going to be right next to or parallel to the y-intercept, or sorry, the y-axis, and it's never going to cross the y-axis. So my y-intercept does not exist. And what is that slope? Is that slope undefined or is that slope 0? If we look at slope man, straight up and down, undefined. So we're going to say our y-intercept is still 0 because it never crossed. Oh, sorry. You can't say your y-intercept is 0. You have to say none. There is no y-intercept. It will never cross the y-axis. And my slope is undefined. Imagine y plus 1 equals 0. If I got y alone, it would be y equals -1. Imagine this line. This line is straight up and down. Y is -1, left to right. So my slope is 0 and my y-intercept is -1. Where does it cross the y-intercept? At -1. Doesn't matter whether you graph it as that one or y equals -1. Either way, it's going to cross the y-axis at -1 and it has a 0 slope. All right, here we have y equals 2x plus 4. So my y-intercept is 4, also written as 0, 4, because that's my x and my y. And what is my slope here? My slope is 2. Okay? It's asking us to match the equation with the graph. So I should be crossing the y-axis right here. What are my choices? That wasn't close. Right? So based on this, I can eliminate that first graph and that second graph because they don't cross the y-axis at the right place. Here, these both have a y-intercept of 4, and then my slope is a +2. +2 should always go that way. If it was a -2, it would go down. Okay, but it's positive. So, well, it's not C because it's off, but it's this graph. It crosses the y-axis at 4, and then it goes up 2, left 1, up 2, left 1, up 2, left, right. Sorry, up 2, right 1, up 2, right 1. I'm terrible at left and right. If you haven't noticed already. Okay. Now let's talk about parallel and perpendicular lines. All right. Parallel lines are like train tracks. They go forever in the same direction. They will never touch. Okay. They never intersect, and the slope is the same. If this is line 1 and this is line 2, the M1 is equal to M2. They have the same slope. But perpendicular, on the other hand, looks more like this. They're going to cross at a 90-degree angle. And what happens to their slope is this negative reciprocal. So if this slope is up 2, right 3, this slope, let's say that's line 1, that's a positive slope. Here we have a negative slope, so we know it's going to be negative. Negative, and then the reciprocal of 2/3 is 3/2. Good. To determine if a line pair is parallel or perpendicular, you must first find the slope. And then say the slopes are not related at all. The slopes are exactly the same slope, or they intersect each other and the negative reciprocal is going to be this fraction flipped and the sign changed. So instead of a negative, it's a positive, and instead of 3/2, it's 2/3. Instead of a positive, it's a negative. Instead of 2/3, it's 3/2. Okay? So are these parallel, perpendicular, or neither? What do we want to do? We want to look at the slope. This slope is -5. And then this slope is +5. Good. Those are negatives, but they're not the reciprocal. -5, opposite or negative reciprocal. We'll say has a negative reciprocal of, instead of negative, it's a positive. -5, I need to flip it. How do you flip something that's not even a fraction? You make a fraction. -5 divided by 1 is still -5. So the negative reciprocal of -5, 1 is +1/5. Okay. Here we have y equals -5x minus 9, 5x minus 9. When I graph those, do they look like they're at perpendicular? They're perpendicular to each other? They're at a 90-degree angle? They're not. A 90-degree angle would be like a corner in a house. Okay, these aren't corners. We have one big corner and one tiny corner. However, if I changed it to 1/5, that looks perpendicular. Okay. Here we have +2 and -1/2. 2 is positive, so the negative reciprocal is going to be negative. 2/1 becomes 1/2. These are perpendicular. These slopes are perpendicular. Good. Here, first we need to solve for y. All right, y equals 2x minus 7, but this isn't in slope intercept form where I can see what the slope is easily. So I'm going to change x minus 2y equals 8 to y. So I'll isolate the y by subtracting x, -2, y equals -x plus 8, divide by -2, divide by -2, divide by -2. You can look at it like that, or you can say -x plus 8 over -2. Those are the same. Those have the same value. -x divided by -2 plus 8 divided by -2 is the same as -x plus 8 all over -2. Anyway, y equals negative divided by negative is a positive, so it's x over 2. 8 divided by -2 is -4. Remember, negative divided by negative is a positive, and you can also write it as 1/2 x minus 4. Okay. Here is our last one. We want to solve each of them for y. 6x plus 2y equals 8. Subtract 6x, and I get 2y equals -6x plus 8. Divide by 2. Y equals -6 divided by 2 is a -3. 8 divided by 2 is 4. The other one is 21x plus 7y equals 30. Subtract 21x. We we get 7y equals negative 21. I'm out of space and it's making me unhappy. 7y equals positive 30 minus 21x, because we moved it. Divide by 7, divide by 7, divide by 7. Y equals negative 21 over 7 is negative 3 plus 30 over 7. Also welcome to write it as y equals 30 over 7 minus 3x. The end of the day, these are parallel. We can verify using Desmos. It was y equals 30 over 7 minus 3x. And this one was negative 3x plus 4. Parallel. All right, guys, that's all for slope. Thanks.